Part 5, let's talk about hydration and breathing. Now, if you're like me, you walk around all day and you're hunched over, you're just like breathing like, stop that right now. Take a big giant deep breath, let your belly fill up, let it expand. Most women have been taught you gotta have a flat stomach. If you let your belly hang, you're gonna be gross. Enough of that nonsense. You're developing paradoxical breathing whereby you're not allowing your belly to expand, and when that abdominal chamber pressurizes when you take a deep breath by lowering the diaphragm, where does that pressure go if it doesn't go out through your belly? It goes down on your pelvic floor, which is why so many women are dealing with incontinence. Start belly breathing. By the way, a lot of men also experience incontinence. We just don't talk about it. Taking a big giant deep breath not only oxygenates and ventilates your bloodstream, it also helps to circulate cerebrospinal fluid. That's important, isn't it? Right now, you can practice breathing appropriately if you imagine breathing into your genitals. Sounds funny, but just give it a shot and tell me how you feel. Wim Hof breathing is a really, really beautiful style of belly breathing in cycles whereby you're breathing in and out and then you're holding on an exhale and then you're repeating that. That's a great resource. You can do that daily. Then there are some other very, very difficult types of breath work like effigy breath, which my wife and I used when we were having our baby at our home right up there. When you do effigy breath and you feel all of the stuff tied up in your nervous system starting to ooze out through your extremities and your mouth, you'll probably end up looking like this at the end. Sexy, right? Breath is life. It brings spirit into your body so it can animate all of those organ systems. It can help to cleanse your blood. Breathing is essential. Now let's get to hydration. So how much is enough? If you weigh 160 pounds, you're gonna aim for 80 ounces of water. And that needs to be really, really clean water. A couple years ago, there was a giant train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. That's how they say it. I would say Palestine, but they say Palestine. A bunch of toxic shit was on this train. It spilled out everywhere, got into all of the waterways. And I happen to live about 1.5 miles from the Ohio River, which originates in Pittsburgh as the convergence point of the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers, in case you're interested. And then it flows all the way to the Mississippi, contributing to the watershed for a very, very, very large region in the Northeast and Midwest portions of our country. I used to use a Berkey, but they weren't able to validate that their technology ends up detoxifying water as well as they claim. So they've been falling out of favor, and I actually think they just filed for bankruptcy. Now, the types of chemicals that were in that water are not things you would want to drink, let alone take a bath or have your little babies bathing in. So we needed an upgrade. I looked at every single system out there, and the one that I liked the most, the one that I chose, was Greenfield's Water Solutions. But here's why. Not only does it filter out all the bad stuff, it doesn't require remineralization like reverse osmosis. And I have a quad flow vortexer filled with crystals and all this other stuff in a copper encasement that is important for a couple reasons. 4th generation Austrian forester, Victor Schauberger, he's one of my mentors. I've read everything he's written. He has a great book called The Water Wizard. And what Victor Schauberger did, way before we had all this modern technology, was sit and observe water. Just like Tesla, Victor Schauberger was very, very innovative. Where Tesla was working on electricity and energy sources, Victor Schauberger was researching and studying water. So the whole theory that came out of Schauberger's work, and a lot of other water researchers, is that the water that you get from the glacial mountains, right? It's coming out right off the side of a freaking gorge. It's very, very different from the water that travels hundreds of miles in lead-lined piping right to your tap. So how can we try to mimic nature? We're never going to copy it, but how can we mimic these vortices that water pass through in streams and waterways, and even as it's permeating through the clay in the earth into fresh waterways? That's where these vortexing devices are very compelling. Now, I don't know if it really makes a difference, but our water tastes really good. It's almost effervescent when it comes out of the tap. I feel way better drinking this water than I do any other water, and that says something. The water inside your cells is more of a plasma versus a water, which is why when I shoot you with a gun, you don't spill water out everywhere. You get this plasma that spills out. It's the main constituent of blood. What is in that water, including the majority volume of every one of your cells, is as important as how hydrated you are. So you want your water to be slightly alkaline. You want it to have trace minerals in it. And this is where some of the water systems get this wrong. If you can't afford anything at all to improve your water, Stop drinking water that's sitting in your car, first off, in plastic bottles, because it's leaching those microplastics into your water that you're then trying to hydrate with. But two, add some nutrients to your water. There are things like Element, but more importantly, you could just use some Himalayan sea salt and some lemon, and you're going to mineralize the water, at least to some degree. You can also buy bottles of trace minerals. It doesn't taste very good, at least the brands I've tried, but you can add that to your water if you use a litmus strip and you find that your water's a little bit acidic. That'll bring the pH up a little bit. Breathing in deeply to circulate your cerebral spinal fluid, and then hydrating in order to nourish that cerebral spinal fluid and all the other fluids in your body. In the final part, which is to come, I'm gonna help you bring all this together and give you some pointers as to how you can start, which might just be one little thing per week that you do differently in order to start modeling healthcare and not sick care. See you then.